Hey, what it do? Welcome to Privilege Stash, the podcast by me, DocGreenBody, where it's always a privilege. First, let me say thank you so much for everyone that tuned in, tagged, shared, and reposted my last episode, which was actually my first episode. I really appreciate that. I couldn't have asked for anything more. It was something for me to see and for you guys to see if I actually could do this. Well, I did it, and now here we are to the next episode. I appreciate everyone. This is episode 2. 2, where we'll be talking about what is small batch? Small batch cannabis compared to commercial cannabis, small batch cannabis, home cannabis, things of that nature. Some people say it could be anywhere from 10 to 50, 50 lights. You know what I'm saying? Meaning hood lights, meaning most of the time anything from 500, or should I say 600 to 1,000 watts, meaning each one. So 10 to 50 lights, some can call small batch. Me, I would consider small batch being actually 10 to 20 lights, but we'll get into that. You know what I'm saying? But welcome, like I said, and let's talk about small batch cannabis, that is. The definition of small batch cannabis, it refers to cannabis being processed in limited quantities with a focus on quality and craftsmanship, an emphasis on hand-on cultivation, with methods, unique genetics, and cultivating a premium product. Cool. Bet. Let's get into that. Limited quantities. Limited quantities to me means something that, you know, a lot of people really don't like to do, which is like hand watering, where you can go through in every plant that you have in one space, you can actually hand water. When you say hand water, that means you can touch it, you can see what's going on with it. You can lift up the leaves. You can check for pests. You can check for deficiencies, and you can do all that type of stuff. Now, if you have anything like past that number I said, which was 10 to a 50 lighter or something like that, most of the time you can't really take that kind of, you know, detail to each and every plant in your work spot, your work area, whatever you want to call it, in your grow, your space, all of that. So, you know, I would just say, in my opinion, I would say anywhere from a 10 to 20 lighter, or one person may be able to run, 2 people better. But that way you can actually pay attention to each and every plant that you have. Meaning that, you know, you could even split it up for a couple of days. Maybe you do 5 today, five of the lights you'll check today, 5 of the lights. So you'll keep it in rotation, but you're able to touch and see each and every plant when it comes to, you know, a limited quantity. Now, when it's a bigger commercial grow, most of the time you just throw it in there. You have everything automated. You might have a couple of cameras to make sure don't nobody jump in that thing. But other than that, you're not really paying attention to each and every plant. You're just making sure that every plant is looking healthy and well, and just run it as fast as you can, turning over a quick product real quick, not really interested in what the taste or what it should be when it comes to the end of that situation. So the limited quantities, that definitely means small batch. Also, let's say with a focus on the quality. Small batch, like I said, that means you can touch, feel, see each and every plant, which means that you want to make sure that your quality is good. You want to make sure that it's growing, that the roots are healthy, that you don't have no unnecessary pests, no unwanted pests. You know, most people, when you're doing small batch anyway, they're growing organically, some in living soil. So you're going to have good and bad pests. That was be in another story that we'll talk about, but you're going to have good and bad pests. So a lot of people that don't actually like to see bugs or anything like that will usually not do an organic living soil, because they have to deal with all of that. And they really don't take time to see which pests are good and which pests are bad, so they just not even go with it. But most of the time you still can be organic to where it's not a fully living soil, to where you're doing something like a no-till. Now myself, with my small batch, I do what I call a full till organic grow, meaning I do have some living good pests in my soil, but I turn over my soil. To me, it never really made sense with people doing a no-till. for as far as I can remember, when it came to farming, every season, every year, every farmer tilled their crop before setting the crop, tilled the land before setting the crop, meaning they turned the soil over. It made it loose, broke it up or did whatever they had to do. Added amendments, watered in, planted seed, but it was tilled. It was not no till. They wouldn't just leave the soil like it was for the next season and then come back and just plant right there into that. I mean, maybe there's some that work. And if you do know about any, please connect me, send me a link or something like that. But I'm not really knowing about too many people that actually did that, from original farming and stuff like that. So me, I like to till basically, but it's the same type of situation where you still add your amendments every time you restart your plant. But with my grow, once and I like to filter my roots. So when I say till, like once my harvest is done, I cut down the plant or whatever like that, and I take my soil and I separate the roots. I separate the roots from the soil, so all the goodness that was in the soil, whether it was the good pests, the amendments and all of that, I bring that and I put all of that into, let's say a tub or something like that, and then I actually just break up that soil to where it's area again, to where it's almost started, and then I would repot and restart a new plant. And that's how I would do my full till organic soil. It's been well. I've been using my soil right now in my small batch, like I was saying, maybe going on 3 years. I add in soil maybe every 3 to 4 years just to, because it seems like roots, like in plants, they also like to eat the soil somewhat. Or maybe it just the roots take place of the soil and then push the soil out and you never see it disappear. But for some reason, you end up with that soil. But anyway, I do a full till organic soil. So that's what I like to do. And that's how I keep my quality of plants in my small batch growing. Also, when it comes to craftsmanship, and that goes back into, like I said, some people like to do organic till, full living soil. Some people like to do full till, living soil. Some people like to do all organic. But most of the time, when it comes to small batch, it's going to be artesian. It's going to be craftsmanship. It's going to be something that particular grower has learned and like to do for themselves. So what they do is they use that same SOP throughout their full grow. So that way they know that they have that, let's say, je ne sais quoi when it comes to putting in the love for the plant and being able to touch each one. They know exactly what's going on with it and stuff like that. Now, like I said, I already told you which way I like to grow, and that's my craftsmanship. I don't really see too many people talking about a full till organic grow. I'm pretty sure there are some growers out there that do that, but me, myself, that's what I like. And like I said, that just comes from my common sense, you know what I'm saying? Like, my opinion. But I like to, and most of the time when it comes to my particular small batch, I like to go left when everybody's going right. So if they're going, like say, candy, fruit, stuff like that, I'm usually going to go gas. Or if they're going gas or something like that, I'm usually going to go fruit or candy. It's something about, to me, and my craftsmanship of the thing, I wouldn't say that my grow brings out more of a candy type feel. When they say candy in small batch, I usually think of artificial flavor, not nothing added or anything like that, but a terp that's almost artificially flavored, like a forbidden fruit or something like that, that has that hardcore terp that you know from anywhere, you know what I'm saying? So when I say that, that's what I mean. Most of my grows, with my organics, I wouldn't say that I could really say that my terps ever really come candy to me, to where somebody else may think so. To me, in my opinion, I think my grows come back, even if it's a candy strand, it's going to come back more of a fruit taste, like an actual fruit. It seems like mine, when it's done, it's like, and you partake in it, it's like biting into a piece of fruit, you know what I'm saying, with the juices and stuff like that. That's not really artificial. Like say, when you bite into a banana, you don't really taste banana now later, you know what I mean? But it's the same thing. Or when you taste apple, you don't necessarily taste an apple now later. That's per se. But if you change that up and you go to, let's say, banana, and then you have a banana pudding, they taste almost exactly alike. Or if you have an apple and you have an apple pie, even though it's something different, they're going to taste exactly alike. And that's what I think my grows come back with, that actual fruit type flavor, to that you're going to feel it, you're going to taste it. First, let me repeat that. You're going to feel it, meaning medicinally, and you're going to taste it as a fruit taste. Now, I mean, that may just be my palate, but like I say, most of the time, that's what I get for my growth, even if I'm growing a candy type strain, like a lemon cherry or LCG or something like that. Usually they come back to me like fruit tasting or something like that. But that just may be from my craftsmanship, from what I use when I grow, the organic amendments I use, that that brings out that particular flavor. I will also say, in my particular small batch, I like to use a mix like spectrum. So I will use something like a 1,000 Kelvin, but then drop it down and then it be mixed. And then so I might have a 6,000 and a 55, you know what I'm saying, checkerboarded, or 6,000 and a 45 checkerboarded. So, and I do a perpetual small batch grow. So, it's a lot of work, but all my plants touch every single light in my grow. So I have it to where a rotation, to where by the time that a plant goes into the flower room, it finishes within 8 to 9 weeks, that it's touched every spot or every light in my particular room. And that's how I do my perpetual growth. And most of the time it's all, each light batch will be one or two flavors. To where I used to do, like, I might have a one light batch doing like maybe 4 flavors at one time, which is really crazy, because that's really hard to do, because that's like keeping 4 people in one room all the time, loving one particular spectrum at that moment, or one particular feed at that moment. Everybody's eating the same thing, feeling the same thing, taking in the same thing. But that's what I like to do. That's what I like to test. That's how I feel I test a lot of my strains. That makes them that makes a lot of them a little bit more hardier when it comes to staying alive and things of that nature. I found out also it brings something different to my small batch compared to someone else's small batch. And it's just something that I like to do. Now, which brings us into another thing when it comes to small batch, or in my opinion, I would just like to say, it doesn't matter. I don't care where the cut came from. You can give, let's say we have 10 different growers in 10 different spaces. And you give all of those 10 different growers one strand, one cut. Then all of them have the same cut, and they take it to their spot and they finish it in the 8 to 9 weeks. I would damn near bet everything that none of those strands will actually, none of those phenols, none of those same cuts will taste the same. All of them will taste different, because they're in different environments, different atmospheres, different lightings, different timing, all that type of stuff. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that, but if you don't know, you know, and if you know, you know. And I wouldn't tell anybody anything else different than that. Like, I can give anybody one of my cuts and it will never come out like mine. Now, I'm not saying that it won't come out better or worse, but they won't be the same. Not saying that it won't be better or worse, or someone can do it better, or someone can do it worse, or anything like that. But the strand, the pheno, when it comes to the bag, and matter of fact, what I'm about to do right here, when you roll it up, it won't be the same. It won't be the same. And that's one big thing that I love about cannabis. And that's why I think really it should only be small batch, so everybody can have their variation. Imagine all those 10 growers coming into one room, and all of them finish the same pheno And all of them tasted different, getting a different experience from each one. That's some dope shit. That's some dope shit. You know, that's like almost, I mean, you're cloning a person, but giving them their own identity. You know, giving them their own whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're one and own. They're all original. Even though they're the same, they all come back original. And that's one thing that I love about cannabis. And that's one thing that I love about small batch. And really, even if you're doing it commercially in a big type situation, I really don't think if you run one grow room, let's say whatever it is, 1,000 by 1,000, one time, it's all one flavor. You run that room one time, and then you come out with a great batch. It's lovely, and you take that to the next. You putting something new in that particular facility, so you move that one to another facility, and you fill that room out. It will not be the same. I don't think it will. It'll come out very similar. And most of the time that's because that facility is using everything exactly the same. They're usually going to mirror what they have in one room just to bring it that much closer. But in that type of situation, I wouldn't say I bet everything, but I would bet 75 to 95% that those cuts will not be the same, even though they still may be great, but they'll be great in a different way. And that's just my thoughts on it. Also, when it comes to small batch, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that, it's the difference in small batch and commercial. It's a very hands-on experience. Like I said, you get to walk through, you get to see every plant, you get to touch every plant, you get to smell every plant, and you see it step by step. You know what I'm saying? You see it from, if you're doing clones, you see it from the first stage of when it starts to root from the cloning stage into when you put it in dirt let it veg, whether it's 1 to 2 weeks, sometimes longer. And you get to see you get to pick out the strong from the weak. So I don't see, if you have small batch, you should be able to, keep a control of your good and your bad plants, unless you're just, you still just one person. So you may have a bad day. No one's perfect when it comes to that type of situation. But for the most part, your consistency should be full on, and you should be great with your consistency because you're getting to see everything. You're moving each and every plant. I don't care if it's 1 to 100 plants. You find a way to touch and see every one of those plants, so you can actually have that relationship with each plant. And speaking of, when it comes to small batch, that's somewhat of what it is. It's an actual relationship with the plant instead of just bringing it in, just mashing it out, bulldogging it, and just, what I'm saying, running it hard and, just giving it the minimal, or sometimes people overrun it. They give it the maximum of what they think the plant needs, and it comes out looking very well, but it doesn't talk right. I would consider it as a handicapped plant if it's done commercially. It's handicapped because it hasn't had that love. So, when you don't have that love, or you don't go to school, or you haven't been touched or something like that, you might have, certain things that's wrong with you. You may not be able to read, you may not be able to talk, make full sentences, know where to put your periods and your commas and all that type of shit. So, it's sort of like a handicap because that plant hasn't had the love that it should have when it comes to it. So it's really, small batch is really handcrafted cannabis, which makes it another great thing about cannabis, because since it's handcrafted, it comes in so many different forms. And when I say that, I'm still talking about just one pheno. We're not even talking about all the different strands in the world that there are for us to get into and to have different terps, different flavors, different. It's bigger than a rainbow when it comes to terps and strands of cannabis. And that's why I never seen a reason to do anything to adulterate the cannabis, anything to change the cannabis from what it is. Because if it's grown to its highest quality of what it can be, it will be what it be, my guy. I mean, like I say, you have mango strands, you have papaya strands, you have kiwi strands, you have apple strands, you have gas strands, you have bullshit strands. I mean, like as in smelling and tasting. bullshit strands, you have skunk strands, you have Hawaiian strands, you have Asian strands. So you can run the gamut with whatever you pull or whatever you have. It's like a smorgasbord or smorgasbord. What they call it? Smorgasbord. It's a smorgasbord. It's a whole lot of shit. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? And there's no reason to ever have to taint it if you're growing, what I'm saying, with quality in mind. Now, a lot of times, like I said, when you just guerrilla growing and bulldogging it and stuff like that, you can get a great looking plant. And that's why sometimes people need to, do things to change it from what, cause it'll look beautiful, what I'm saying, and all of that when it comes across, but it would never be the taste, the, the aroma, the, just that. It won't be that because, what I'm saying? It's gorilla done. And when it's handcrafted, you get to make sure the ones that you've selected, what you picked out, and all that type of stuff, it comes out as such. And that's one thing about small batch and what's so great about small batch. I actually, I could talk all day about small batch because I never think it should be anything else. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's some place like Walmart or some place like that doing cannabis, I think they should enlist local growers as just like with the produce. You enlist local growers. By the way, everyone should grow their own, in my opinion. Grow your own. Then that way you know exactly what you're putting in your body. You know exactly what's being used. You know exactly if, dare I say it, if it's sativa or if it's indica or if it's a hybrid or anything like that. And you get to learn your specific taste, what you like. Everyone isn't, a blank white and black palette when it comes to, food. When you think of your food, do you eat the same thing that everybody else eats all the time? No. I know I don't. I mean, I'm finicky. I have, well, I'm not gonna go into that. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's all types of situations where that you could have your own type of flavor that you like, that you can share with others. Now, I'm not saying that no one's gonna like what you like or you're not gonna like what no one else is like, but you can have something that you really do like. And that's what I say when growing, think of it this way. Every strand you ever smoked, if you didn't grow it yourself, someone had to select that. And some, we don't know, but what if they just started with one seed and that's the only plant they had and they decided to put it out to the masses? Or they did an actual hunt, let's say 100 seeds of the same strand, and they found that one that everybody likes. Let's just take runts, for example. That runts that everybody likes. That was selected by one person. So it's what they like. Let's say they like blue cheese, but you don't like blue cheese. But this is the blue cheese that they selected, that the cheese that you have to eat. So with that being said, it's like, if you have a room of 100, everyone's not gonna like the same person. But someone's gonna like one person. And unless you're in the circle or in that 100, you won't know what the other 99 were, which might have been your particular favorite. So in small batch, it's the grower selecting their favorite cut out of a particular strand and running it and giving it to the masses. But it's something they selected. But that's why I tell everybody to grow your own. And when it comes to small batch, I don't think it should really be anybody else's, opinion on what it is. If anyone can grow good cannabis. Cannabis is a weed to start with. So it's gonna grow. It's not one of the hardest things to grow. But you can perfect it and you can fuck it up. But it's not one of the hardest things to grow. And to me, when it comes to small batch, I like small batch too, also because usually small batch sticks to the old ways of doing things. I'm not too much in animation having, timers and this go on at this time. I like to do it myself so that way I know. Even though you have to stay consistent because if you do it yourself or something like that, it's not always it's not always gonna come out the way you want. You're gonna have shit to do. You may forget to do something. You may have a bad day. You may get sick. You may not be able to get up or anything like that. So it's a lot of reasons why people wouldn't take a small batch approach when it comes to that type of thing, like the non-animation and paying attention to each plant, because everybody that doesn't have the consistency to put in the time or the work to bring out that craft artisanal product at the end. It's it's easy, but it's hard at the same time. And you have to be patient and you have to pay attention to detail when it comes to small batch. And this is just in my opinion, just to throw that in when it comes to small batch. Like I said, everybody's palate is the same. So it kills me when people say, that's not it, or this, that, or the third. But then you may see them 5 minutes later and they're high as fuck doing some crazy, stupid shit. But it goes along with the situation. But it just may not have been for them, that particular strand. Every strand isn't for everybody, like I said. So, small batch is great to where you can try out different batches. Small batches are usually not around that long. Small batches are usually something that you have to be in the know to even know that it's a small batch. Most small batches are like locally, meaning not necessarily one county or something like that, but it's locally, like to the southeast, because it's only enough to reach out to so far, unless you have someone you holding out for that really wants that and they get that small batch over there. But other than that, you get it direct from the grower. Usually it's under a 20-pound run. If you ask me, it's under 20. So, 20 pounds, just, how fast does that go? So, you know what I'm saying? You may get up to 50 pounds, and how far does that go? You know what I'm saying? It really depends on just where you're at, how fast you're going, and what your motion like. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's always, quick, light, and fast motion because of the product not being that much in quantity, but very fucking high in quality. Because it's all about quality. And now I know with me, with a lot of my particular small batches, I fucked up a couple of times, but what I get back, and if that shit's fucked up, I won't even put that shit out there. I won't even if that shit is not, a quality product, I won't even put it out there. And now I won't even say now, when I say quality product, I mean like medicinal, flavorful product. You know what I'm saying? Because, I don't put out a product that still may have seeds, in it because, I do pheno hunt sometime, and all of the breeders, when it comes to fem seeds are not, standing on 10 like they do online. So you may get a herm here and there, but it's just a herm here and there. So it may be a little seeded when it comes back, but it's still, to me, and this is always my opinion. This is my fucking podcast, so it's gonna be my opinion. But in my opinion, seeded weed doesn't mean bad weed. So when I say bad weed, I mean, it's not colorful, it's not tasting the way it's supposed to, it's not this or that. I mean, and other than that, you won't even see it if it comes out dirty, which is what I call it. But, sometimes I throw away a lot of shit that other people may not even think of throw away because, what I'm saying, I try to have a high standard of quality when it comes to the product that I put out. One thing I do know, my product, it will always be clean. It would never have any PGRs. It would always be pest free. And it will be medicinal, meaning it will take you to where you're trying to go. And if it doesn't do that, it's not coming out. So that's like something that I guarantee. And over the time that I've grown, what I've found is even though a cut that I may get from someone or something like that, and it might be real flavorful or something like that, and it hit, you know what I'm saying, but may not get you so high or nothing like that. When I get the cut and I do it with my formula that I use, it's gonna come back medicinal and it's gonna come back hard hit. It's hard. It's I don't know if it's because my mind when I'm doing things, I put in a vibration of B gas, B gas. But other than that, small batch is really about who you know. If you know your grower, or if you know someone very close to a grower that does small batch or something like that, because usually it's in and out of there real quick, because of the amount of the cannabis that there is when it's harvested. And another thing about that is most small batch growers really don't care about the pull or the weight at the end of the harvest. So they're usually growing a niche of a particular variety that most others may not grow, such as a long-standing sativa that may go 10 or 11 weeks or something like that. You may find a small batch grower that's doing a 10 or 11 weekers, or you won't find something that only comes back an ounce of plant or an ounce of lower on a plant, because they most of the time, if you do a commercial, you're not gonna even think that's makes sense to even put that in the room and load it up like that. So it's just basically taking up space, but you will get that from a small batch grower, and you get to taste those artisanal flavors. Like, to say, if you went to your grandma's house and tasted her favorite recipe or something like that. So, you get that from a small batch grower. And you get, you know, all types of flavors, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's savory, sweet, hardcore, gas, wall, you know what I'm saying? It's all, you know what I'm saying? It's a part of the cannabis that you're, partaking in. And that's just something that's gonna come from small batch. And what I would say is that you should just really educate yourself on different strands, instead of sticking to one particular vendor or provider or someone like that. You should try, different ones just to see, if one may suit you better than others, not necessarily going with the hype that's, floating around at the time, because you can usually find some jewels out there, and you might just find one that does you better than any other. Because, like I said, don't forget that even though we do usually use it a lot recreationally, it's still medicinal. It's still very medicinal, and you get that. And also, I would like to say, when it comes to education and small batch and stuff like that, you're gonna get more of the entourage effect from the cannabis. You're gonna get, like, when I say entourage effect, you're gonna get the full range, full spectrum, whether it's the aroma, whether it's the taste, whether it's the feel, the way it crumbles, the way it breaks down. You're gonna get all those different types of varieties. It's gonna be just so many different types to just go through, which makes the experience new every time. And I consider cannabis being, if you're not necessarily using it for medicinal purposes, and you are using it recreational, I think it should be, a social thing. I like to smoke cannabis socially, with other people. It opens your mind, see what they think. Even though I do a lot of listening more I do talking, but it depends on, the circle that I'm in at the time. But cannabis use should be a social thing when it's not medicinal and you're using rec. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people use it by themselves and stuff like that, where there's nothing wrong with that. But in my opinion, I like it. I like it, and I like to use it socially. I like to see other people's reaction to it, how they like it, how they taste it, their thoughts. Because a lot of times, I may be tasting blue and they taste red, and that's good to know. Sometimes, they'll be like, that one ain't it. I might be like, shit, that's it for me. So I keep it, but I won't put it out no more. I just keep it, in the circles, and I only do it like right here, right now, when I'm doing my own thing, and I'm being social with you guys. You feel me? So I would just say educate yourself. Cannabis is barely scratched the surface to me when it comes to education, when it comes to knowing about it. And, even though a lot of people have been ran through like some mutts and they're just tired of the game and think they've hit their ceiling or whatever, okay, go ahead, And I feel you. Some people, this game is about consistency. It's about, putting in the work. It's about not being work. I mean, for me, it's not work. You know what I'm saying? When I go into the grow room, when I go in there, it's it's like having fun. It's just like living daily. It's not nothing that I would consider being a job or anything like that, because I love to do it so much. I love to look at the plants. I consider plants in my small batch, I consider my friends, my peoples, my family, because I think every plant is like a person, and I'll get into that later on. But I think, they all react to us and our vibe and the vibe that we give them. So, that has another thing. If you see some grower over there and, he does small batch, but you don't like his vibe, more than likely his cannabis is going to be like that as well. I had somebody tell me one time that they had went and copped from somebody and they had some motherfucking angry weed. What the fuck is angry weed? Because, I mean, that's never my vibe when I put it in there. But they was like, yeah, man, I put one together. Me and wifey went up. Next thing, we was arguing the whole day. Woo, 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 woo. I was like, damn, that's crazy. But then when I thought about it later, I was like, shit, if I'm putting in my vibes, imagine what the vibe they putting in the situation. So, like I said, education, 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 no matter where it comes from. Because, it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. Cannabis is lovely. And, let me say this too, before we get up out of here. When it comes to small batch growers, should be treated with the utmost respect, because they taking their time and put it into a product to bring to you, for you. If you don't like it, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many places where you get sold. That shouldn't, that shouldn't be the problem. But I think when growers, and most of the time it only happens with growers, when growers disrespect each other, I think that's bullshit. I think that shit is whack. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody has to get around the curve. Everybody has to, figure out the time that they need to put in to come with a proper product. I know I've been doing this for a long time, and even though most of the time I'm hitting 95%, it's still that other 5% that can happen. And I never, ever, ever know everything about cannabis. Or because every plant, like I said, is like its own person. So I'm learning something new every day when it comes to cannabis, the way it's grown, the way it's smoked, the way it's, what it can do, that benefits and stuff like that. So, never be closed-minded when it comes to cannabis. And another thing I would like to say when it comes to small batches, like the pricing, it's never, ever, 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 ever gonna be the same price as, say, your local store, dispensary, or even your black market trap spot, because it's something different. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even say like in wine. Think of it as a truffle, an expensive ass truffle. You like, shit, the truffle is not even that big, but it costs a certain amount. That's because that particular truffle comes from a certain place, a certain time, and it doesn't come from everywhere. So, I mean, it's only for the privilege. Small batch is only for the privilege. Get to know your grower, grow your own, have your own small batch. And that's really what I can say, but it's never gonna be cheap. Cheap cannabis is not good cannabis, and good cannabis is not cheap. And however you say it, you see the memes and all that out there, they don't come like that. So, from DocGreenBody, You know what I'm saying? Stay up. Don't ever come down. And hey, try to find your privilege. Appreciate you for stopping by. I holla.